Hey there, welcome back to the Great Canadian Blueprint. I'm Ian, your guide through Canada's economic and real estate past. Today we're zeroing in on the environmental cost of logging in the 19th century. It's a story of cleared forests, economic wins, and lasting scars. Let's explore what that deforestation did, when folks realized it was a problem, who stepped up to fix it, and how Canada's tackling conservation today. As a Remax real estate agent from Hamilton, Ontario, I'm unpacking the economic, social, and real estate shifts that shaped our country from the 1800s till now. Let's start with the Ottawa Valley in the 1800s. This place was a logging hotspot. Miles of white pine forest trees so tall they'd make your neck ache. Some 40 feet high with trunks wide as barrels. Loggers were relentless, cutting down pines as far as the eye could see and floating them down the Ottawa River to ports like Quebec City. In 1864, Quebec shipped out 20 million cubic feet of timber. That's enough wood to build 10,000 homes. A single acre of pine could yield 5,000 to 10,000 board feet, about 625 cubic feet. So that 20 million meant clearing roughly 32,000 acres a year. By 1900, estimates suggest 40% of Ontario's forest cover was gone, with white pines hit hardest, dropping 90% in some spots. What do you think that did to the environment? It was brutal. Forests weren't just trees, they were homes for wildlife. The passenger pigeon, once flocking in millions, lost its habitat and went extinct by 1914. Deer and moose numbers tanked as their forests vanished. Without tree roots, soil eroded, washing into rivers like the Ottawa. That sediment clogged waterways, messing up fish like salmon that indigenous communities depended on. Then there was bark and abandoned logs, which if left on the ground became fire hazards, and if left in the water, rotted away and wrecked fishing spawning grounds. The Ottawa's river as well was tamed for logging, changing its flow and ecosystems. Sawmills waste piled up, sparking fires. Hull burned in 1875, 1880, and 1888, partly due to debris. It wasn't just a local hit, it reshaped the valley's nature balance. But there was an upside, economically at least. Cleared land became a goldmine for settlement. The Free Grants and Homestead Act of 1868 gave settlers 200 acres if they cleared 12 acres and built a house. By 1892, Ontario handed out over 1 million acres, much in the valley. Towns like Renfrew and Pembroke popped up, built on that land. Renfrew hit 2,000 people by 1901. Pembroke reached 5,000. Dairy and grain farms spread, feeding Canada's growth. By 1931, prairie cropland hit 16.4 million hectares, and the valley followed with its own agricultural boom. Those cleared forests didn't just make money for loggers, they built the community. So when did people realize this deforestation was a problem? By the 1880s, the damage was hard to ignore. Loggers were running out of prime pines and folks started worrying about what was left. In 1882, the American Forestry Congression in Montreal put forest conservation on the map, pushing scientific management over reckless cutting. It wasn't just talk. By 1883, Ontario created Algonquin Park, a 7,600 square kilometer haven, partly to save forests from total depletion. Logging still happened there, but under rules, showing people knew the forest needed protecting. Banff National Park, set up in 1885, was more about tourism, but it signaled a shift towards valuing nature too. Early conservationists and government bodies led the charge. The Canadian Forestry Association, founded in 1900, was a big player, pushing for replanting and sustainable logging. These people spread the word through campaigns, getting farmers and loggers to think long-term. In 1909, the Federal Commission of Conservation, led by Clifford Sifton, took it further. This group of academics and officials published over 200 reports, including forestry surveys, that shaped policy for decades. They actually studied timber use and pushed for preservation and even influenced the 1970 Migratory Bird Conservation Act, showing how wildlife and forest issues were linked. Jack Miner, a conservationist from Ontario, got in on it too, starting a bird sanctuary in 1904 and banning over 90,000 birds to track migration. This work wasn't exactly about trees, but it helped spark broader environmental awareness. By the 1960s and 70s, a second conservation movement kicked in, driven by ecology and environmentalism. This is when we started seeing groups like the Nature Conservancy of Canada and the World Wildlife Fund of Canada. These groups would go as far as buying land, lobbying for parks, and pushing for laws to save what was left. It was a shift from just managing resources to valuing ecosystems for their own sake. So what's the big picture today? Canada's forest industry is a $33 billion industry, and you have all these large corporations that want to supply the world with the lumber it so desperately needs. And on the other side, we have sustainability. And sustainability seems to be the name of the game these days, with the Forest Stewardship Council even certifying forests, ensuring that 90% of the harvested areas are replanted. And when you put the two together, you still have people butting heads. Old growth logging in BC still sparks protests, and Indigenous land rights debates echo the 1800s, when logging pushed Algonquin and other communities off their lands. Protected areas are a big deal now. Canada conserves 13.5% of its lands and 14.7% of its oceans, aiming for 30% by 2030. Then there's Ontario's Greenbelt, created in 2005 under Premier Dalton McGuinty, protects 800,000 hectares of farmland, forests, and wetlands around the Golden Horseshoe. It includes the Niagara Escarpment and Oak Ridge Moraine, curbing urban sprawl and preserving ecosystems. But it's had drama. Recent attempts to open Greenbelt land for housing stirred backlash, with Premier Doug Ford reversing course in 2023 after public outcry. Overall, Canada's got 39 national parks plus over 7,500 provincial and territorial parks covering 11.4% of the landmass. The Canadian Boreal Forest Agreement, signed in 2010, protects parts of the boreal forest as well, balancing logging with conservation. Indigenous-led areas like Polar Bear Pass, co-managed with local communities, add to the mix. These efforts show that Canada is at least trying to learn from its past. But here's the catch. Cities like Toronto, Hamilton, and Niagara, right in the center of some of these protected areas, are growing fast and need more homes. Ontario needs 1.5 million homes by 2031 to fuel the population growth of these great cities. But the Greenbelt's rules limit where builders can go, locking up land to stop sprawl. Toronto's cranking out condos, Hamilton's stacking up townhouses, and Niagara squeezing in near tourist zones. But it's not enough. Home prices are nuts. $1 million homes in Toronto, Hamilton's reaching $800,000 on average, and supply's tight, with Toronto hitting a 20-year low in 2022. This sparks a big debate. Some say the Greenbelt's choking growth. 2022 plan tried to open 15 sites for 50,000 homes, but after protests and scandal, it got axed in 2023. Others argue it's vital. 80% of farmland's outside of it anyways, and it forces smarter, denser cities while saving nature. It's really a big tug of war. Housing versus the environment. Back in the logging days, we cleared forests for space. Now the Greenbelt's a response to that history, protecting what's left, but making it tough to build for everyone. So what's the takeaway? Logging in the Ottawa Valley built Canada's economy and towns, but gutted forests and ecosystems. By the 1880s, people saw the damage, and groups like the Canadian Forestry Association and Commission of Conservation stepped up. Today, we're balancing a massive forestry industry with protected areas like the Greenbelt, but fight's not over. Here's my question. If you were shaping Canada's forest today, would you prioritize jobs and growth or preservation? Drop your thoughts below. Thanks for watching the Great Canadian Blueprint. Make sure to like and subscribe for our next dive into Canada's epic story.